The best experience as a rugby league player is running out in the Queensland jersey at Suncorp Stadium.
And Hunt goes himself as he can, and he picks up another one.
He goes Payne Haas. Oh, look at that.
He is big, he is strong, he can offload.
Here goes for Fido.
It would have been easier to stop a truck that was coming that way.
Hammerso Tabuai Fido.
It's hammer time.
Will now. She gets down low. She'll get it down this time. Victors in Women's State of Origin 2021.
Well, thanks for joining us for another edition of Queensland and Boys. Just another quiet week in the NRL. Not too much to talk about. Not many scandals or incidents or that thing. Oh,
knows how to keep itself relevant. The NRL, doesn't it?
Well, that old saying, any publicity is good publicity, but perhaps not this week, although the NRL certainly is a talking point with every sports fan and person that probably doesn't even watch sport anymore.
Yeah, we'll leave that whole Manly debacle for those down south to discuss. Our talking point to kick us off, Kevin Proctor from the Titans, sacked for vaping. What was your immediate reaction to this?
Well, he's made a silly mistake, hasn't he? Like, I think... it's one thing to, I guess, if you're not playing, to be on the sidelines going to the toilets doing that. I guess it's illegal. So he's not allowed to do that in a stadium. So surely, taking the vape into the stadium was the first mistake. Then doing it and putting it on social media was the ultimate mistake, and he's paid a consequence for it.
Yeah, I think that's the part, Lockie, that's everybody's gobsmacked. If he knew it was going to get him into trouble, why put it out there? Why let people be able to make a judgment, which is only going to go one way anyway? Look, I've watched this guy play footy over the last few years in particular and thought he's done a good job. He certainly seems to be getting better every year. His experience has him up there with a good, hard-working forward that does plenty. But to throw away a career for doing something, I just can't sort of get the common sense part. Answer that question. Why? It's something you answer to your parents when you're a young boy, when you're growing up. Why did you do that? Well, I think Kevin will be probably hounded by this for the rest of his life. He's going to be known as the bloke that basically lost his career through something that he wasn't supposed to be doing.
Do you think that's a problem too, the social media aspect? Like, it's one thing to do it, but this level of stupidity intensifies when you put it on social media.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, social media. Obviously, players use it to their advantages to create and enhance their profile. It's not something that was in our generation, and it's not something we would even have the desire to jump into. But the other edge of the sword is if you're going to do silly things and put it on there, then you're asking for trouble, and you deserve, I guess you put yourself out there, you got to take the bad times with it as well. So unfortunate, and I'm sure if he had his time again, he'd do it totally differently. He just didn't think.
Yeah, I heard a conversation this morning which brought a smile to a few people's faces, but they sort of said if you were going to rob a bank, you wouldn't video it, would you, and show it up to give yourself up. So that's probably a gross exaggeration, but I don't know. I'm a bit of an old-timer. I don't see sort of, what it was all about and why he did it. The big question for a lot of people that they're going to want answered is that what he was after? Is that what he was trying to do? Just trying to get it out of the Gold Coast, get on his way, or finish up his career? But it's certainly a very unusual way to do that.
And he was brought to the Titans from the Storm, was a premiership winner at the Storm, brought in to help with the leadership. Was his signing in the end a failure? 6 seasons, yielded just one finals game.
Oh, yeah, look, I think you'd ask Kevin, he'd probably say he didn't, I guess reach the levels he wanted to at the Titans, but, I guess that's also a reflection of how maybe the team's gone over the years. He's come from a system where the discipline was, really a really big part of their preparation, their performance, and for whatever reason, maybe different coaches, different club, maybe a bit of, definitely a different culture. I know they'd strive to have a Melbourne Storm culture, but they're not there yet. And I think I sort of saw this a little bit when the Broncos were going through some trouble in recent years. You know, when you're not winning footy games, players start to lose a bit of focus. They're not enjoying it, and they lose a bit of focus. And when you lose focus, sometimes you can become ill-disciplined. And I think that's the challenge when you're at a club that's down near the bottom of the ladder at the moment. Your players aren't winning and they're not enjoying themselves. How do you keep them motivated to be disciplined?
Yeah, good point, Lockie. And, you know, he as you say, he started off with Melbourne and things were looking rosy for him. A lot of people were amazed that he made the decision to head to the Gold Coast. Well, I guess on the financial deal that he got, you certainly couldn't blame him for that. But perhaps he's just become, you know, a little disappointed or very disappointed over the last couple of years in, you know, putting in performances which weren't his best. But certainly he can't be blamed solely for the Gold Coast performances on the field. But this one, I think people are going to remember him for this rather than some of the great games that he's produced, you know, for Melbourne and also New Zealand.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate situation in all this. Another major talking point that's kind of been buried in everything this week is the end of the Cowboys-Tigers game there. You were actually on the sideline in Townsville. Well, what did you make of it?
Yeah, stunned. Just trying to work out what was going on. I don't think I've ever seen so many players in a short space talking to each other. One was giving the referee a mouthful. The referee was just sort of saying, hang on a minute, I want to hear something. I'm in a conversation with somebody else up in the box. Some of the players were talking to each other and trying to come up with it should be this because this is our team and we deserve to get that. It was bordering on comical, but it was so serious in the outcome of the game that it had to be treated extremely seriously. And was, you know, yet another point for Rugby League that they probably wish didn't happen on the weekend. But certainly that was not a great finish to that game.
There was, it was a little bit exciting though too. At the same time, why didn't the Tigers goal kicker just take one more second? Or did they blow? He must have blown time.
Time off.
Yeah, because I was watching it. I was watching it at a friend's house, and I couldn't hear the audio too much. But then we all just sort of walked out of the room, going, "The Tigers have beat the Cows." Yeah. And then you see 1 second left, and they get the kick off, and then there's this sort of commotion / drama. And I see the NRL have come out and said that they've got the process right, and that. Ben Cummins was the on-field referee.
I think it was Butler.
No, Butler. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what he was trying to establish through to the bunker was, are they allowed to use a captain's challenge? Which the NRL said that they can. You know, a stoppage in a game, they're allowed to use it. So the process was correct, but they've sort of come out and said, well, you know, Ashley's got it wrong by saying that was a penalty. And look, it was hard. You know, hard for West Tigers fans because they played so well. But, you know, again, we speak it out all the time. Referees, whether they're in the bunker or they're out on the field, they're going to make mistakes. And unfortunately, another one was made on the weekend. And I think from what I'm hearing is Ashley Klein's going to pay a price.
Yeah, he's been dropped from this week,
Yeah, and it was quite interesting to watch. I had a look at it a couple of times, and the referee was obviously in communication with the box upstairs. He was walking back and forward. There were a whole pile of players that were following around like you were walking your dog in the middle of the street and trying to, you know, tease him with.
And he's like, talk to the hand, talk to the hand, talk to the hand.
Yeah, so it was back and forward, and he was trying to get some sort of communication out. And while we find a little bit of comedy about it now, it certainly wasn't that way, unfortunately, for the outcome of the game. When, you know, they're talking about that's how the game was decided, and some of the good points of the game have certainly been swept under the carpet now. We're not talking about those.
I think the point is too, if the Tigers player legitimately tries to catch the ball, this doesn't happen. Like, they practice for the escorts. You hear them on the sideline when a kick goes up, they yell out escort, escort, escort. If he legitimately tried to catch the ball, this situation wouldn't have happened. So. It just annoys me that we always blame the referees when it's not the referee's fault.
Yeah, that's right. And Kyle Feld, I think he had a bit of a smile on his face at the time. I'm sorry for giving you up there, but he got up as if to sort of say, oh, well, I might have got that one. Might have done what was required, but he was claiming that that's exactly the way that it did happen. But it'll just depend on who you support in the premiership to see whether you agree or disagree with that.
Well, as a Cowboys supporter, for once it was good to finally get the rubber of the green go away after years of calls going against it.
And that's the thing, like the rub of the green is a part of the game. Some days you're going to get some luck and some days it's going to go against you. And unfortunately for the Tigers, it went against them, but at a very crucial time. But they didn't get the rub of the green.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people, Lockie, that sort of saying, the people that are getting the most criticism now are the referees. They're under the spotlight, and to be honest, they've got the toughest job in the world. They really have. I mean, I used to bag them a little bit while I was playing. I'm sure there were plenty of other players in the competition. They have got the hardest job. There is no doubt about that in rugby league, and we give them wonderful support and congratulate them on their decisions. Sometimes like this, though, it becomes a little bit hard to accept, particularly when the penalty's going against the side that you're on or you're supporting.
And Todd Payton said at the start of the year the bigger teams seem to get the calls, Lockie. Was that a case of now the Cowboys are a top 2 team?
No, I think that's not a... I don't know. Coaches say that, but I don't know what... I think they say that out of frustration, but I definitely don't think that had any factor at all with this, yeah.
And what do you make of that comeback for the Cowboys? They were down by 10 points at half-time, while they could have easily lost that game, even if you take out the controversial finish. What do you make of that comeback?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was sitting on the sideline as well, so you get to hear things, not everything, but you hear a lot of the communication that's going on and some of the messages that are about to be delivered out onto the field by the trainers. And I think that they've become a little bit more trustworthy now, the players. They take things nice and comfortably. They don't panic in the majority of situations like that. And when they got the chance to be able to come back at a difficult period of the game, because, without being disrespectful, I think they certainly were the firm favourites for the game, and they deserve to be. And there has to be a little bit of credit given to the Tigers. I thought they produced one of their better performances for the year.
And your thoughts on the comeback, Locke?
Oh, look, I think, a good sign is when you're winning and you still haven't played your best footy. You just don't want to make a habit of that every week, right? So I think that was a bit of a, not a wake-up call, but, it's a good sign that they can still win a game from that position. But I think Todd would be, going back to, looking at the basics and making sure we do them really well to give ourselves the best chance of winning every week.
And the Broncos play the Tigers this weekend, Saturday night at Suncorp Stadium. Broncos coming off a hugely impressive win over the Eels while down there at Combank Stadium. What does a win do like that for an emerging team like Brisbane? Oh,
it's terrific, and I think we've seen plenty of those this year, Adam. And going along to the training sessions that follow, I think that's something that I've enjoyed doing, going and just seeing the confidence that's injected into the team through their last performance. Should it be a loss, well, they get that determination, that will to win, and that real need to improve their game. But I think that Kebby really has developed them into a trustworthy side now, where even if they suffer a loss in a game, they tend to turn it around and produce a best performance. But they've got some extremely tough games coming up.
Winning away from home in a hostile environment like that against another top 4 team, that'll do a lot for particularly the young guys. Like there's, I guess like Adam Reynolds, he played in the grand final last year. But some of those young guys that are looking for a bit of self-belief that they do belong where they are on the ladder and they can challenge those teams in the top 4, that's huge for their belief.
Are they favourites now to finish top 4, do you think? And are they a genuine premiership contender? Panthers are ahead of everyone else, but you think the Broncos?
I think you take Penrith out of it. You throw a blanket over half a dozen teams there. It's pretty open after Penrith. And you don't know what's going to happen with Penrith. They may
get injuries.
You don't know. So there is a bit of a logjam around the 4 and the 8, so it's intriguing sort of 6 weeks for a lot of those clubs that in and around that. But look, I think they're doing a lot of things right, the Bronx, and we keep talking about Reynolds, but he's obviously had a huge impact. So if they can stay fit and their key players stay fit and healthy, they're in it.
Yeah, and it's the confidence that they display full time. I mean, we get the opportunity, Adam, don't we, to go down to all the Broncos training sessions and watch them. And at the start of the year, they certainly look good. but they have improved greatly throughout the course of the year, and it really is quite obvious just in their everyday behaviour, the way that they're sort of communicating with each other when they're in those training sessions. The talk that goes on certainly has improved greatly, and they put that into the best possible motion on the field in their games, and they certainly do appear to be a much more mature side who have enormous trust in each other's confidence.
And at fullback, Tessie New's playing fullback at the moment. Lockie, is he the fullback to take them through to the finals, or do you look at bringing Tamari Martin back now that he's on the comeback trail?
It's a tricky one for Kevy, and it's a good headache to have. I mean, I've been really impressed with Tessie and how he's come back. We talked about how Tamari sort of changed or added a dimension to the Broncos game because he had a pass and he was, bringing the centres and in particular the wingers into the games. I mean, it wasn't a coincidence that, Selwyn Cobbo and Corey Oates started scoring try after try when, Tamari started getting the ball out to him. But Tessie's, I think he's seen what Tamari brought to the team, and he's gone and worked on his game a little bit, and he's got a pass in his game. And so well done to Tessie for the way he's come back, and he's putting up a fight for that position. Yeah,
and the great thing, Lockie, too, as well, while you've got two guys giving their best to try and gain that position, it promises the best performance from them, and certainly there would be a coach that would be extremely happy, as would the players, knowing that it doesn't matter who they've got in there, they're producing their best performances of the season, and that's only going to make the Broncos so much more powerful.
What do you do next year, though? Tessie's there, Selwyn Cobbo's a potential fullback, Herbie's expressed a desire to play fullback, and on top of that, Reece Walsh comes to the club.
Yeah, well, I think Reece has been brought to the club to play fullback. He's got a left foot kicking game which would complement Adam Reynolds. I think, well, there's talk of Tamare, Warriors are after him. Look, we'll just see where it lands, but it's just a really good, I think it's good for Tessie's development that he's come back and he's played really well. If he's up to fight for his position, not just now and next year, well, that's a good sign from a kid that's come through our system.
And speaking of fullbacks, our Queensland Origin fullback Kalyn Ponga is so good in the decider player of the match, but unlikely now to play for the rest of the season due to his head knocks. How much do you fear for him, Well?
Yeah, we'll just wish him all the best, and hopefully the time on the sidelines will assist his recovery from that. That's not good, and I think every footballer goes through one of those periods where you suffer a whole pile of head knocks and you have the self-doubt about you and your performance. You don't tend to run in with such aggression in either attack or defence in a situation like that. So, I think we can understand how he feels, but I'm sure that once he has a little bit of comfort about his game and his performances, that'll tend to disappear. If those head knocks don't come back, I shouldn't imagine they would. They're obviously an accident, and you wish him all the best.
Yeah, I think. Well, it'll be interesting to see if he makes himself available for World Cup. Is he? Because
not sure yet.
Yeah, because once you've had a few of them in a row, you just need time. Like we look at Tamari Martin, right? That was significant head knocks where he's bleeding on the brain, but he's had. I don't know, how long did he have?
2 years.
Nearly 2 years, and he's come back and he's so it's just now time to let the brain reduce its swelling and get back to normal. And I'm pretty sure Kalyn can do that. I guess it'd be really delicate or interesting to see how they approach him with the World Cup.
And I think it's that rest period, Lockie, that's the secret to success, isn't it? I mean, every footballer gets these as they go through some knocks to the head, and they all do tend to occur, time after time. It might be a couple of weeks apart, but you get another one, and then you have that little bit of fear about you. Am I going to get another one in the next game? An off-season could be the perfect period to be able to have that recovery.
He's got 10 weeks now before the season ends. Then there'll be a couple before they go into camp. So if I was Kalyn, there's probably an element of him wanting to play World Cup, but the fact that he wouldn't have played for, over 12 weeks, I think just put your feet up and have a long off season. Yeah.
Have we worked out who's selecting this World Cup squad yet? Lockie, because Billy doesn't want to do it, Freddie doesn't want to do it.
So just to give you the confirmation of how that all works. So the Constitution, which is where Peter V'landys is coming from, suggests that 2 New South Wales representatives are on the selecting panel and 2 Queensland, right? So myself and is a Queensland rep, and then you got Laurie Daly in New South Wales. So the other person was to be Billy and Freddie. So the Constitution then has 2 Queenslands, 2 New South Wales. So those two have, they've decided they declined. Too much conflict, which I totally understand. I thought it was a bit odd that, they've got to sit there as the coaches of the respective teams, and if they don't fight for their players, then, it's...
Not doing their job.
Not doing their job. So at this stage, I don't know what is next for the NRL, but myself and Laurie were never removed. We're still there. We will help Mel, but whether they get another Queensland or another New South Wales representative, well, that time will tell.
But that never happened in your day. The New South Wales selectors always picked the Australian team, didn't they? Well,
yeah.
They stitched up us Queenslanders.
We copped a little bit of a hard run, and they were the days when we were regarded as you weren't as good if you came from Queensland, and thankfully Origin pretty quickly slowed that down. But yeah, that was the case. Not in '81. I was the only Queenslander in the Australian side, just one person in the Aussie side, and thankfully that tended to change through Queensland's dominance in State of Origin.
Well, we can't wait for more Origin next year. Thanks for joining us, guys. Stay tuned to the Wide World of Sports, NRL on 9, your home of NRL action.